Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is feeling refreshed and ready to go. Next up on the stage is a panel on developer journey, key metrics and initiatives to drive success, hosted by Vera Tiago, Manager of Developer Advocacy at OutSystems. Vera, over to you and our panelists, Jennifer, Chris, and Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to DevRelX. I'm super excited to be here today with Jen, Jeff, and Chris. We are going to discuss a very important topic, which is metrics and initiatives to drive impact in the developer journey. And why is this so important? Because there's no magic formula to identify what should be the top metrics for your DevRel strategy, because that depends on how young your product is, how big your community is, where does your team sit in the company. So many external factors that you should consider while picking your metrics and your priorities. So Jen, you look great. Jeff and Chris, you too. But Jen, you got my attention. So before we dive into this topic, I would like to go with a round of quick introductions. Just share a little bit about ourselves. If you don't mind, Jen, I will like to start with you. So tell us about your journey from a webmaster to head of developer relations today at Contentful.
Oh my gosh, webmaster. I found this out recently that some people don't know what a webmaster is. You know who you are. Anyway, hi, I'm Jen Lopez. If you're wondering about the crown, I realized that other folks had this great bling and I needed to add a little something. So that's where the crown came in. Jeff, your bling is like your whole background. And I'm super jealous of the jacket. So anyway, this is what I got.
You look awesome.
Thanks. So currently I run the developer relations team at Contentful, which is a content platform with an API first approach. And, but yes, I have a background where many years ago was a web developer myself. I used to develop in Cold Fusion, if anyone, that dates me right there. And I made this very weird transition from developer to technical SEO to leading communities. And for me, developer relations and leading developer communities is like this awesome combination of all the things all into one. And I've been doing this now running communities for 13 plus years, and specifically in developer relations for 6 or 7. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Jen. You forgot to mention that you are a community guru. So huge community guru. Go check Jen's Twitter profile, and she has tons of followers. So
no, my Twitter is all about my love for like TV shows and movies and stuff. So you can follow me on Twitter. There's not going to be much community stuff there.
Okay, thank you so much, Jen. Next, maybe Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I got to do a call out. As you noticed the jacket, when I saw Chris Riley earlier this morning, I was blown away. Smoking orange jacket. Not everyone can carry orange well, but then you said you had a black jacket with purple sequins. I'm like, I'm perfectly set up for this. So maybe it's a Chris thing. I don't know. But as I was saying, my name is Chris Bledsoe. I head up developer relations at Workday. I basically cut my chops in developer relations when I was at Apple. So when Apple, I had the very fortunate to be at Apple when they launched the App Store and the iPhone. So I had a chance to be there, work with a number of developers that were building on apps that were posted up there. And that's where I kind of learned it. And then through a series of unfortunate circumstances, I don't know how that works, but I ended up at Workday, where they wanted to start their very own developer program, and they never had one. So it was a truly unique opportunity here as well, because unlike a lot of other developer programs, we have what I call a private, meaning we only have people that buy the product and actually get into the developer program. So we have a slightly different use case than probably your publicly facing developer programs that a lot of people work and operate in today. But I'd be happy to share some of those insights, and I think it's going to be a great panel. So call out for Jen, yourself, Jen, and Jeff. This is going to be fun.
I agree. Thank you so much, Chris. Jeff, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Jeff Bull. I'm one of the two managers of developer advocacy at Cisco Developer Relations. It's interesting. I've been in developer relations now for 2 years. Actually, as of like a couple of weeks ago, it's been 2 years, which is wild because my entire career was as a network engineer or network architect, starting at Harley-Davidson in 2003 for 7 or 8 years, and then moving all through. So kind of coming to this from a very different perspective. But when I learned about these things, when I came to Cisco 7 years ago, that we were even doing something like this, I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And this whole idea of the art of the possible, as somebody used to say at Cisco all the time, got me really excited. So yeah, I love getting here. I've network engineering, the background, people leadership, doing DevRel, specifically working with the developer advocates is fun. And I love community things and I love talking. So that kind of works really well. You probably see that a lot here. Everybody knows I love talking. So that's kind of why I have this shed in my backyard that looks the way that it does so that I can do a lot of those sorts of things. But yeah, it's going to be great to be here. I'm super excited.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Jeff. Okay, let's start our conversation and deep dive into the topic for today. Before I ask my first question, everyone, please drop your questions on Slido. We will be more than happy to answer those. So developer journey. So developer journey is about, every step a developer takes from getting to know about your product until they become an advocate, right? So they get to know your product, then they give you their email, then they do the first hello world, then they start learning and playing with it, and then they become huge fans and advocate for it, right? And depending on the stage that you are focused, you have different initiatives and different metrics that you are tracking. So my first question, and actually I would like to ask this question to all the folks so that we can compare, the different scenarios here. But my first question is for you, Chris, because Workday is a product which the end user is not a developer. So I'm super curious to understand what is the developer role for Workday, and what is the priority, on your strategy? So let's, consider 3 pillars, which is content, community, and product. For you, what are your top priorities, and what is the role of the developer for you?
Absolutely. So as I was mentioning earlier, since we're not in a typical developer program, you have this freemium model. Ours is like reversed effectively. So when people come to my developer program, they're already motivated to become a developer. And so because of that, I'm very heavily focused from a content perspective and making sure it's easy for a developer to come in and learn how to build right away. Because a lot of these companies, they've already got a use case in mind of what they want to build out for extending the capabilities of Workday for the business. And so we get a lot of the question, surprisingly, is stuff like, well, what are some other use cases? Because, and it's true for a lot of developers, the first app is the hardest to build and takes the most effort and energy, right? After you get past the learning curve of a hello world. But it's really the second and third and the fourth app that we're really focused on trying to enable our developer community to accomplish. Right, so they already have an idea for the first one, but now that they've made an investment to be a part of it, how do they do the next one? And that's one of our key metrics. We look at our customer use. Well, how many apps have they deployed into a production environment? Because that really helps drive the value for the business. From the developer perspective, it's like, how long does it take a developer to build and deploy an app on our platform? Because once you get into the enterprise world, especially enterprise application development, it can take some months to build. And so that's another one of our key metrics we like to track is like, okay, what is it that enables that developer to build the first app? And then how long to build the second and the third and the fourth? So there's some of the key metrics. And then I'd say the other one that's more at a high level, we do a quarterly NPS. So we like to know, for those of you who may not be familiar with Net Promoter Score, it's a real simple model. Basically, you give a rating from 0 to 10. If you're a 9 or a 10, you're called a promoter. If you're a 7 or 8, you're considered neutral. And if you're 0 to 6, you're considered a detractor. So it's a percentage difference between your promoters and your detractors. And generally, you want something in the 20, 30, 40s or higher. And that's usually where we live out, around that range. So that's another way that we try to measure developer sentiment and whether or not they're getting what they're looking for, and if we're able to make adaptations and changes to accomplish that. So those are some key that we look for. So it's a combination of content and how much they're actually delivering their applications and building them out.
No, super interesting, and it's it's curious to understand that you have two metrics, which I truly believe that we should combine metrics, right? So you have what we call at OutSystems like the lead time to first value, which is how long does it take a new customer to get their first app in production, but you are also measuring how happy people are, on that, right? So it's a combination of two. So great insights in there. So thank you so much, Chris. So next, I would like to call Jeff. Jeff, isn't Cisco all about plumbing? What is your priority these days?
What?
What does Cisco do? I know this is something we talked about like in some of our prep, and I jokingly said that oftentimes people or community members tend to look at Cisco as the plumbing company. And that, historically that's been fine. Like most of the internet physically runs on Cisco gear someplace. Yeah. And that's fantastic. But not a lot of people think about how we allow for integration and innovation on top of the platforms we have. And so this year specifically, we are heavily focused as a developer relations organization, and I'll also kind of tangent that into developer advocacy too, is the easiest way I can sum it up would be quality, awareness, and adoption. We obviously, like a lot of companies, we work with in our DevRel, we work on OKRs, and our objectives, we have 4 of them this year, are centered around those 3 things. And the whole intent there is to focus a lot more intentionally on our external communities, talking with them and understanding what they need, how they can be successful. We're actively driving internally an API quality program, which I'm sure we'll get into discussions later on about, but how to help improve our existing APIs as well as the developer's experience with our products, because not everything that we make has an API. A lot of them do. Actually, the vast majority of the things Cisco puts out product and platform wise have some sort of API or SDK that you can actively work off of. Right now, we have lots of solutions that exist. That said, a lot of them don't. They're more classic technologies on the network side that don't necessarily work the same way. So a lot of this is about awareness for us and getting the word out through our communities. And then for the developer advocates specifically, we've mapped our 4 pillars of strategy to our company objectives around cultivating the community, building community-inspired content, because I think that's the most important thing we really can do, is understand what our community members need and building things to solve those things for them, taking that back into our BU relationships to help evolve and influence what the business units are working on. And all of that ends up in this virtuous cycle of kind of sort of concluding with the developer's experience, which carries right back into the community again. So it's a big focus for us to create more awareness, make sure we're improving the quality that we want, and really engaging the external community much more intentionally than we have in the past to bring those insights in and have that continuously improve what we're doing.
Great stuff. Thank you, Jen. Jen, last but not least, I'm keeping it to the end because one reason. So I would like to, learn what you are doing at Contentful, what are your priorities, and how that does compare with the work that you were doing at OutSystems. For everyone that doesn't know, Jen used to be my boss, and then she gave up on me and decided to leave. So I'm very interested in knowing more about your priorities. How is it different, right? I assume Contentful is not about making developers happy, right? I know it's a CMS, but yeah, tell us everything.
Also, first of all, ouch. That one. I would never give up on you or leave you.
Oh,
yeah. So at Contentful, somewhat similar to what has been discussed. We're really focused on there's a whole awareness side that's a big play for us. A really, we want developers to know we exist and what we are, and when they would need us, and all of that. I mean, essentially everything that we do has some sort of content, right? Whether it's whether you're building mobile apps or websites or paid ads or whatever the thing is, it's all content. And so there's a lot on the awareness side. And in the past, that really has been what the DevRel team was really focused on, was building content, videos, guides, all of these things really on the awareness side and attraction and bringing people in. And the area that, and we'll keep doing that because that's important. But an area that we really need to focus on, and where we're starting to really put some of our heads down and building out the strategy for, is so once they're in, right, it's really important. We want to help them to keep building. We want them to be able to get their questions answered quickly. You want them to find lots of other ways that they can actually use the product and the platform, right? So there's this whole adoption engagement side of things. And that's where, for me, that's where community comes in, right? Really building out a robust community. So that has been, again, not giving up on attraction, because that still needs to happen, but really growing our muscle on the community side and advocacy side. Next on our list is building out like an MVP super user type program, and that sort of thing. So that's really where our priorities lie, are obviously attraction, engagement, and adoption, and then advocacy. And how
great.
those differ. Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things, so at OutSystems, there was already a robust MVP program, right? And we had also kicked off a champions program. And so in some ways, there are things that when I was at OutSystems, the priorities were different because those things already existed, right? And so there was a heavy focus for a long time on talent at OutSystems, which was, we needed to make sure that customers and partners, that there were enough developers out there who knew how to build with OutSystems to, whether to get jobs or help train their teams faster and all of that, and helping to connect customers with developers and getting them educated, right? So that was a big priority and focus. Not totally sure if that is today. You can speak to that, but so that was a bit of a one difference. There still was obviously attraction and engagement and building, and you wanted all of these things to happen, but the focus at the time was slightly different.
Yeah, no, great insights. Yeah, so I would say, active developers is one of the top metrics that almost every company has, right? The other one is consumption, right?
Yes.
So your product being consumed, right? And like you said, so in order for us to have talent or active developers, we need to bring more developers. We need to make sure that developers stick with us, and then they, gain expertise with your product. So yeah, this totally makes sense. So I have one question on Slido. Actually, I have two for Chris. Chris, you're very popular. So someone asked you.
It's the jacket,
also,
that's all.
Yeah,
they don't remember my name, but they will remember a jacket, right?
Okay, so also having private customer partner only APIs and SDKs, how do you attract new customer partner developers and convert them to build by?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have my own developer community, but the way Workday is structured, since we're a SaaS-based company, we have our own Workday community, and that has access to all of our administrators. And so we have some content up there to kind of talk a little bit about what's available with purchasing Workday Extend and how you would leverage that. We have videos and content up there. So that's one way. But the second way, which I think is more powerful, we put on our own developer conference. And so we literally just had one this last summer. And what's unique about our developer conference compared to the other enterprise focused company, we have a Rising is our big customer event, where you have 10,000 plus people attend, is that we're able to show you technology and talk about roadmaps, but then you can get your hands on it, which for developers, that's key. They've got to be able to play and touch the technology. So that's another way that we reach out to these customers. Not only do we show them the new technology, we say, hey, but if you join our DevCon conference, you can not only learn about it, but we give you pre-access to it. And so we also have hackathons. That's the other big way for people to try it out, is that if they haven't touched it yet, but they can at least look at it, see how people build applications, see how they create the value proposition and stuff like that. So those are the top ways that we are able to get people. And then we have an amazing sales team. It still blows my mind that I have a sales team that can sell a product that's not cheap, and convince them based upon their need that they need to just buy it without ever really playing with the technology first. So like I said, but they trust us, right? And that's part of the thing. And I know that developers, sales, just does that even mix it? Well, yeah, developers influence. They're the biggest influencers. And I think that's something that we've learned at Workday, is that you want to influence the people that are building, because then you get that nice bottom-up engagement. And that's what, the basis of pretty much any developer program you've got out there.
No, great. And you spoke about developer conference. So I assume that developer conference at Workday is an attraction event, right? So it's
absolutely.
to bringing, okay. Because at OutSystems, we have a developer conference where it's more like a community event. So it's more on the education step than the awareness attraction step. Jeff, Jen, does your company host developer conference?
Yeah, we do. We used to run a series we named DevNet Create, which was designed specifically to be in part educational, but in large part was to shine a spotlight on community members, primarily the presenters at the event. It was usually a 2-day event in person, in the before times, in Mountain View in the South Bay of the Bay Area of California. Actually, I should say at the Computer History Museum. That was just super fun. But awesome. It was right. It was all focused on. There was very few Cisco employees that were presenters. Primarily the people that were there presenting were people either in the community, working for third-party companies, strategic partners, like ecosystem partners like HashiCorp or Ansible or other places like that would come in and say, these are things that we have done that are not specific to Cisco. They're just things that we have done that happen to also apply to things that you might use with Cisco technologies. And the idea was to bring in people who are familiar with our technology and also see other ways that you could do this stuff that didn't have to be with just us. It just, here's how you do it. We are running a new event. Actually, it happens, I think, next month or next week, called Develop, which is all centered on getting the word out to enterprise software developers that we're really trying to work with and kind of talk more to and build more awareness with, because Cisco as a company is realizing that we need to have more relevancy for the software developer, not just hardware-centric folks. That's a future that Cisco needs to be a part of if we're going to be successful. And so we have our Develop event next week, and then we have a new event, sort of a rebranding of a previous one, but a new event that will be in March of next year that is very similar to the DevNet Create event, but we'll have a different spin on it too. So yes, we actively do run those sorts of public events.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so last year we did have a developer event. This year we, as a part of our sort of customer event called Fast Forward. And this year we decided to take a slightly different approach. We're still having Fast Forward, but what we're doing is sort of during the pandemic, we had stopped doing meetups and user groups and that sort of thing. And we're taking advantage of the time right now to start ramping those back up. So we just had a developer meetup in the Netherlands last week. And so on the day that we're having the big Fast Forward event, we'll be having an in-person meetup in London and having a watch party as a part of that. And so we're starting to ramp up the smaller local communities again. Also online, we'll do online as well, because I think it's a lot more inclusive to be able to do that. But that has been our approach this year. Also because like everybody has a conference. And so we decided let's go to all of those. We're sponsoring at a lot more events. We're attending, speaking. We're literally like every week doing something at a different event, and then really ramping up our own like smaller meetups and such. So that's been our approach for this year.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jen. Speaking about going to developer events, like external developer events, that usually is a tactic for awareness, right, and attraction. When you come back home, how do you report the success of that activity? Because, you know, to me and to other many DevRels, we care about having meaningful conversations with people attending the conference. But probably for the management, it's more important. Oh, we had how many clicks in our developer hub, or you know, how many signups, or how many emails did we got, how many badges we scanned, right? How do you handle, you know, with reporting and showing the ROI of going to these events, because they are very expensive? So
I'll jump in real quick, partially because I just had this conversation with my boss.
Wow.
Yeah, just had this conversation. Because we're going to all of these events, and it's a lot of third-party external events, and trying to figure out exactly, you know, what that means. We're definitely really focused on trying to get people into the community tier of just trying Contentful out, right? Of just seeing like what it's about. But the other thing is, so we have something called the Developer Showcase, where we get developers to promote essentially what they've done, and that is another big focus area for us, because a lot of times we go to conferences and we talk to developers who are already using or developing with Contentful, and a lot of it is, so we want to get more people promoting their stuff, because we know that when we promote the individual developers and the work that they've done, like just an example, if we promote on social a person and the app that they've built, those are almost always like our highest engaged social posts, right? People like to hear about what other people are doing and like to see that promotion. So that's another thing that is outside of just product signups that we've been really focused on, is and something that we'll continue to really push on, is getting people to, you know, promote their stuff in the showcase.
Oh, great. Jeff,
Yeah,
Chris, anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we did our DevCon, the way we structure the event is we have 2 days of presentations, and we follow the theme model that Jeff does, right? Our goal is not to have a bunch of people from Workday talk. I want customers to talk. I want partners to talk. I want third-party people that are not us, because first of all, they're going to be more authentic. This is their bread and butter. This is how they live. So that's really important. If you ever do these types of events, I think that's what's great about what Jen's saying, is that, you know, you want to go to other people's events because you want them to come to yours, right? And also speak and represent your content. The number one thing that we do, we have the 2 days of presentations, and then we do a 1-day hackathon. And what we do is, because we're introducing new technologies, right? And that's always a big thing. It's to one of those third points that Jeff had made about, you know, quality, awareness, and adoption. Adoption's key, especially because everyone's always releasing new capabilities and functionality, and you want your developers to leverage that. So we literally track it. So we're very fortunate in our system. We can actually run reports that show, well, which APIs are being hit, how much activity is occurring in our backend infrastructure. And we can literally watch it. We literally have a live dashboard. So we can see it during the hackathon as we're building out these projects and stuff. We can do, well, how many apps did they build? How many projects, how many hits, and stuff like that. So that's one thing, because then we should know that, okay, they're actually using the technology and the stuff that we've been talking about. And then the second thing for us especially is how many customers are more interested in the product, right? Because like I said, since DevCon is leveraged as a somewhat of a tool to entice people to buy our product, we also track that as well. So we're very closely involved with our sales team. And actually, I think I saw a question. One of the things we've learned about how do you pitch a platform through a sales organization. Well, we have pre-sales engineers that they build their apps, and that's really cool. Like, to be able to show how you can build an app and then demo that to customers, because that's what a customer always wants to do. They got to go, well, how can I use this platform? How can I use this technology to be usually one of two ways, either helps the top line so I can sell more as a customer or whatever that, or bottom line, how does it reduce costs or improve my users experience, right? Because we're in human resource management, so it's in the DNA of our company. It's like, what is the employee experience? Is it great? Are you enjoying it? Do you like what you do? Do you have the systems you need to be successful? So those are the top two things that we look at when we do these kind of events.
Oh, no, great. I don't know if Jeff, do you want to add something?
I just wanted to add just one kind of addition to the comment I had made earlier about like actual developer events we're hosting. Something that Jen had said, we're really pushing this fiscal year for us on getting to more external events, like going to events. So like me being here, me speaking at like all day DevOps and other things like that. In part doing these leadership style like discussions, but also getting a lot of our developer advocates and other content creators at external events where the community actually is, not just to say, here's the cool stuff Cisco is doing. Okay, that's cool. That's helpful. But it's more about, these are the people that work here that do really fun and exciting things. Some of that happens to include Cisco technology, but that's not the point. The point is we're here and we do awesome stuff. Come talk to us. Let's engage. Let's meet. And we've already had a whole number of them so far this year, which has been great. And we're working on more of them, but we're really trying to get our folks to get out of their comfort zone and go to these external events virtually or in person, so that we are appearing in those communities and can be actual, actually engaged people as a community member, not just, hi, we're from Cisco, but like, I'm a person in your community. I just happen to also work here too. And it's a beginning place for us, but I think it's going to be a real big help in kind of changing the vision or how people view what our company is and what we do and things like that.
No, great. And you mentioned something super important to me, which is, besides the work that you are doing for your company, at this conference, also your team will learn from it, right? It's an experience to be with other developer relation professionals, to see what other people are doing. So it's a way of you to sort of make your team grow in terms of expertise and experience. So great stuff.
Absolutely.
So regarding metrics, right? So we all track a lot of metrics for each stage. Do you have any tactic to constantly show the things that you are achieving as a team, right? Showing the value of your team, like internally for the rest of the company? Do you have some kind of internal newsletter, Slack post, or email communication, something that to show to the entire company what your team is doing?
I'll jump in. So I've been with Contentful 5 months or so. And one of the first things that I implemented was a monthly update. Was like, people have no idea what's happening or what's going on. And there had been an update at some point, previously, but then it died. It's one of those things that's really easy to die off. You miss it once and then it becomes, it stops happening. But it was really important for me to make sure, because not only does it get the information out there to the team, but it kind of forces the team also to stay on top of, yes, these are the things that we're tracking. These are the things, and it's a bit of a retrospective also of like, oh yeah, we did all these things this month. We put out this much stuff. This many people joined the event, or we had this many signups from these various events and things like that. That's what we'll report on in this. And we've gotten really great feedback from, across the organization of asking questions like, what is this? And can you explain that? And have you thought about tracking this? And it just really engages people to think about like, oh yeah, I care about that. Oh wait, we have this thing. I wonder if we can connect. So each month it's just a kind of a, putting that out there company-wide.
Thank you, Jen. Chris, Jeff?
Yeah, I can jump in there.
The way we do it, so I do it in a number of ways. As a part of my developer program, so again, because I'm a private developer program, I only have a few thousand devs, right? They're external, but I literally have more Workday workmates. That's what we call it, our fellow workers. have just as many of them involved in my dev program. And so I do a monthly developer program update call. And that's usually where we talk about all the new stuff we're doing, right? Whether my team specifically builds out apps. We have a app catalog is what we call it. And it's really cool. So it's like, it's not an app store. You don't buy anything, but it is an app listing. So you can go up there, download those apps directly into your environment and start playing with it and using it and stuff like that. So that's one. And then the other thing my team builds out, we build a lot of tutorial-based content, developer educational materials. And so we announce those on those calls on a monthly basis, and I invite everybody in the organization to be a part of it. And then I say the second way we tend to do this is we have a number of internal communications that are done about our organization, because I report in the product. So the product does their own communication. So I embed stuff in there as opposed to having a dedicated DevRel. Although after listening to Jen, I'm like, I wrote that down. It's like, maybe I need to do that too, to get a little bit more recognition. So great idea. I'm glad I'm on the call. I'll walk away with that one for sure. But those are kind of the ways to do it. My guys were so involved in all the different teams. We'd seem to be able to interact and talk to people as we need to. So you kind of have to be your own internal advocate for your stuff to other teams. And I don't know about you, but when I get those monthly emails of lists, I tend to glance because, TLDR, right? And so that's why I like to embed in existing columns as opposed to doing separate ones. Although I think I'm going to look into that one.
Yeah. One thing that worked well for us, Chris, sorry, Jen, was having an infographic. You remember, Jen, you were in charge of building the infographic, right? So with the top metrics, and then with all the bullets of things that we achieve in the latest month. So
good idea. I like
so
that
people
one.
look at the infographic, and then the ones that want will read the rest of the communication.
And I was just going to say, and right now what we'll do is we do like a short Slack message that has, these are the highlights, top number, top things, whatever achieved. And then it links to all the details. So the people who want all the details will go get all the details. The people who don't care about the details at least see those high level, like these are the priorities.
This is
great,
awesome.
Great.
So it feels kind of like we're on a mastermind right now. So I feel like I'm just like, all I'm doing is like taking notes, like, oh wait, we can do that? That's a thing? Oh, I'm totally doing
that's a good idea. Write that down.
I absolutely love this. I like listening to both of you, or actually all three of you. I'm getting some really cool ideas. I love the infographic idea, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
Something we have been doing lately is we do a few things. We do a lot of things internally, like our own internal all hands. We're working to spin up right now a more like company-wide, like all hands type event that people can just join if they want to and learn. But I'm realizing that Cisco is a big company, almost 80,000 employees globally. Like, even if we do open this up, not everyone's going to know that we do this, even if we spread the word. So it makes me think that doing more grassroots style stuff like this, where we can put it through different channels and spread it in simpler ways so people know what we're doing, I think is really useful. One thing that we started doing recently, actually, my peer and I, as we built our developer advocate strategy, we've actually been doing a bit of a roadshow internally to take specifically the dev advocate strategy to different groups, which is awesome. So we presented yesterday at our own internal all hands, so everyone in DevRel knew this is what our strategy is. We're lucky enough to present next week on a larger part of Cisco that we're inside of, that reports up to our VP, and present the same strategy to all of them. But also, like 2 weeks ago, I did it for all of our field technical sales in the Americas, and then 2 weeks I do it again for all the same technical field sales people in EMEA. And so the whole idea behind that is just to tell people, hi, we're dev advocates. This is what a dev advocate is. This is what we do. Here's what you can do to engage with us. These are our priorities, our pillars, all that type of stuff. And the whole point is, partially just to share that information, but in larger part, it's to let people know this is what we actually do, because there's so many conceptions of what the role is. And in many cases, they're misconceptions of no fault of their own. And so the whole idea is here to do kind of a soft reset and say, this is what we actually are. This is what DevRel actually does. Let's have a fresh conversation about that.
No, thank you. Thank you. That's great, Jeff. Thank you so much. And let me tell you, it's a bummer, but our conversation is coming to an end. I feel like we could continue this talk for hours and hours, because I'm also taking notes, so I have follow-up questions for things that you just said. We also have a few questions in Slido that were not answered, not specifically related to metrics, but very important metrics, questions in terms of how do you teach internal teams, how do you build a community, and I think we can continue the conversation on Slack. So.
Okay.
Everyone that asked the question on Slido and would like to see that question answered, please reach out through Slack, and we will do our best to answer and to address those questions. So thank you, everyone. For everyone attending, feel free to reach out on Twitter, on Slack. We are here, and we love to discuss those things, as you probably noticed by now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Vera,
Thank
for
you.
wrangling,
Thanks, Vera.
wrangling us crazy folks. So,
Bye-bye.
Thank you all, folks.
See you
Thank
guys.
you. See you. Thank you, folks. This was a great discussion. As Vera mentioned, you can also connect with our speakers on the DevRelX Slack, one click away just below the stage. I'd also like to remind everyone in the audience that you can as well share your views on driving and measuring success of your DevRel efforts in our 9th Developer Program Leader Survey, which is currently live. The quickest way to participate within the platform is to visit the info stand, where you'll find a survey button as item number 2. I would now like to pass on the mic to my colleague, Flora Botos, to introduce our next session.